I've been playing and thinking about quite a few video games recently, largely for the sake of multiple video projects, but also to expand and get a feel for games as a part of a creative culture. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the often bizarre. And this process has truly granted me insight and appreciation for the myriad of ways we can convey a story through video games. But as I played one after another, stepping into the shoes of an equal array of protagonists, I started to think, what story happens when I'm not there? What events transpire outside the perspective of these specific narratively important characters that we have to follow the story for? Or rather, what story would we see if we weren't the main character? We often hear the line, "You are the main character of your own life." But clearly, that sentiment doesn't often translate if the escapism of video games is as popular as it is. We can find joy and value in the lives we live, sure. But A New Hope doesn't follow the exploits of a random person on a random planet, now does it? In the monotony and dissonance of our modern world, another sentiment has risen. The rather dour idea that born too late to explore the world and born too early to explore the stars, what is left for us in this era? So we seek to become heroes, villains, and adventurers that can fill the desire for a grand purpose. I think most people dream of being the hero, the person who rises above physical or emotional adversity to protect something valuable, to be recognized as a kind of chosen one, either by a higher power or by circumstance. I know I've felt it. The call to be something greater, to do something greater, to fell giants, to root out evil, save the kingdom, to be special. Humans have wanted that for as long as we can remember. We once thought we were so special that the universe had to literally revolve around us. So, why is it that I keep coming back to this? These stories that ignore that ambition altogether, that don't let you be the center of the universe. Why do I keep wanting to play games where I'm not the main character? Some of you might be confused. What do you mean by a game where you're not the main character? You're playing the main character in every game. It's from your perspective. And to that I have to ask, are you the main character? You live life from your own perspective. Would you label yourself as the main character of this great big story we're all living in? For that matter, am I? Are any of us? I think it's a fair assessment that most of us aren't the small handful of people that achieve worldwide renown and success, or who achieve some kind of great heroism. If we were, then they wouldn't be nearly as impressive, would they? To be clear, I'm not talking about games like a simulator or such that don't come with a story, much less a main character. No, I'm referring to games with a narrative that comes with, or should come with, a proper protagonist that you don't play as. Similarly, just because the player character is our perspective within a game doesn't mean they're the main character of the story. The events unfolding around you don't always have to be tied to the actions of the player, or at the very least, they aren't motivated by them. Of course, that's easier said than done, as why would you want to play a game where your choices don't matter? Except sometimes, even in games where your choices do matter, we can choose a simpler life. Have you ever played Skyrim like you weren't the Dragonborn? I have. Many times. It's sort of relaxing, honestly, to play out a day-to-day life in a random village or city. Maybe you play the part of a woodsman or hunter who sells their labor in exchange for just enough gold to afford a bed. In the ever-hectic world of the modern days, such simplicity can be just as appealing as the grandeur of being Dragonborn. In a similar vein, although again not quite hitting what I'm referring to, the Dark Souls trilogy depicts you as just one of many who are jumping headfirst into the coming darkness in order to stop it. As the games progress, your relevance to the greater world diminishes each time. You're an undead warrior in the first who accepts the mission from the man who saved you. In the second, your undead curse has stripped you of all memory, such that any person you were has been erased. And in the third, you play as the Ashen One, a character who is defined by the fact that they failed to become the hero in the first place, and now is only summoned back to life because all other options, all other heroes, have turned from their duties. There's nothing special about you in these stories. You must make yourself into something special. With that in mind, a game that is centered around a narrative side character seems to counter the whole point of escapism. You would think there'd be no market to put yourselves into such shoes, and yet it's not entirely without precedent. The first game that comes to mind is the survival horror RPG Fear and Hunger. Fear and Hunger is not a game for the faint of heart or easy monetization without a censor mod. Shout out to Frappolo for his, which is the one I used. Check out his channel, he makes some great stuff. Within the titular dungeons of Fear and Hunger, you play as one of 4 characters which all have their reasons for entering, all related to Lagarde, a mercenary captain held captive, within who is tied to a prophecy. One wants to save him, one wants to kill him, one wants to study him, and one just wants the reward for getting him out of there. But the significance of them and you is demonstrated early as the monsters of the dungeon and beyond beat that lesson into you. You are not special. You are one in a million who have come here, and you will die here like all the rest. Even when you gather allies, even when you find the guard, even when you descend beneath the dungeon and into the ancient structures where gods dwell, you are never more powerful than your knowledge and experience allows. Death is always present. Only in the most difficult to achieve endings do any of these characters properly get what they came for, and are able to make an impact that matters. And though I won't spoil why, even this helpless child has greater importance. In fact, I dare say she is the true main character, and one we as the player can only bear witness to. Fear and Hunger isn't the only game to do this. That is, to make you play a character who is more support to the main character. The best and most recent example I can think of is Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. In it, we play as one of the many survivors to an alien war that destroyed Earth. Crash landed on a new world, we are largely an accessory and sort of protege to Elma, an elite member of Blade, a pseudo-military force created to help settle the new planet. The player is valued, and makes connections like anyone else, but Elma is the one leading the cast and who has the most investment in the story. If we were to take a step back and imagine X as a more traditional story, the player character would play the character archetype of the big guy, a generally likable but blunt instrument to any threats. They play the role of being both the shield and the battering ram. Extra points if they have a close bond with the brains, in this case, child prodigy Lynn. These tropes fit into the narrative frame of the 5-man band, a somewhat rigid format that exists to balance each character out. Besides the big guy and the brains, there is the heart, hero, and lancer. The last of those exist as a volatile or contrarian counterpart to the generally more heroic hero. With that understanding, it becomes more and more clear that Elma fits the role of hero, with most of the 5-man band being easily filled out by the immediate main cast, although jury is a little out on who exactly the lancer would be. Even so, your own role is never devalued. Multiple times, you are cited as an integral part of the team, even being directly responsible for recruiting several members to it. And though the story isn't super interested in answering questions about your avatar's murky past or making them the sole focus of the plot, you are without a doubt playing someone who matters. A fact made more apparent during the epilogue, where you are explicitly positioned as the successor to Al, hero of Earth. But by this point it feels not like you were preordained for this, but that through some 80 hours or more of gameplay, you earned it. Which is actually more uplifting to me. That you can matter and achieve that much without being the plot-dictated linchpin. The story could have realistically happened without you, but that doesn't mean it would have been the same. You mattered. But sometimes the story isn't that generous. Sometimes the lesson is that no matter how hard you try, you aren't meant to be the one. That dreadful inevitability is present in the final hours of Halo Reach's campaign. As the Special Ops Noble Team, we watch our darkest hour play out right in front of us. An incomprehensible loss of life, as no single character is treated as somehow sacred. Instead, they're treated like inevitable casualties, because that's exactly what they are. Forget that we aren't the indomitable Master Chief, we aren't even the same kind of super soldier he is. We play as mostly Spartan 3s, batches of war orphans chemically enhanced to be as close to Spartan 2s like Chief as possible, to perform missions too dangerous to risk Spartan 2s for, and too dangerous to send non-enhanced people on. They canonically exist to be disposable, so that's how they're treated. With the only member of Noble Team who gets any reverence or prolonged weight given to their death being George, the sole Spartan 2 on the team and the first to die. And every second since, you keep thinking about how things would be different if the Chief was here. Playing as Master Chief in other games, he is a powerhouse that seems to steamroll his way through every obstacle until he finally saves the day nearly on his own. But in Reach, he never saves the day. Chief is the main character of the Halo universe, and we don't play as him here. But while the tragedy of Reach is unavoidable, the story makes a point to say that, in spite of the seeming irrelevance of their lives, what Noble Teams stood for, what they defended, mattered, and lived on by their actions. They enabled the meeting of Cortana and Chief and the discovery of Halo, and therefore the salvation of the galaxy. This experience of Reach is largely not unique outside the main Halo games. This is Chief's world and we're all living in it. And in the criminally underrated Halo Wars games, in the time before and after Chief, the crew of the Spirit of Fire is a lone, ever-diminishing bastion against the enemies of mankind. By the time of the second game, their crew has been cut in half, but those losses are forgotten in the depths of space. They are a seeming blip in the universe, and their deeds may never be known. But they ferry the torch of life for those that come after, that there might be something for the main character to fight for. Despite my philosophizing, I think it's pretty common for people to feel just a bit resentful of the very people we look up to. At least a little bit. What makes them so special? What do they have that you don't? And the truth is, as much as talent and hard work play a part, I'd be lying to you if I said circumstances didn't play their part too. Some are born into better odds, and none of us can control that. But sometimes, maybe that's a good thing. After all, there are countless examples, often joked about, where being the hero of the story is not all that great, when it seems all the world's evils are pointed directly at the main character. Look at, any iteration of Link from Legend of Zelda. His peaceful life is always overturned and shattered by the responsibility placed on him for simply being born as the next incarnation of the hero. And the same is true for Zelda and, depending on how you think of him, Ganon, the great evil himself. In a more recent example, we can consider the unique position of Deltarune, where the game takes a lot of effort to draw a line between you and the character you control, Chris. In fact, across every possible interaction, Chris is merely a bystander to your decisions, and your relationship with them is rightly strained from the very start. But even if we are to disregard that volatile situation, Chris isn't even the main character in this story, not narratively. That would be Susie, whose personal growth and character arc is what defines the themes of each chapter. She drives the plot onward, even early on. She learns and teaches the most valuable lessons to be learned, and she directly suffers the most emotional distress and feels the weight of responsibility the most. It remains to be seen if she too will begin to break. Perhaps it'd be better not to be them. So, why wouldn't you want to lay down your sword for a while? Pick up a gentler tool, and let someone else take care of the horrors that come knocking. Why wouldn't the Dragonborn want to stop being the Dragonborn? Does Elma ever wish she didn't hold humanity's survival in her hands? Perhaps Link just wants to be able to settle down and live a quiet life. Maybe Master Chief doesn't have to be the one who carries the galaxy on his shoulders. It's an idea that's played with in the final game of the Mass Effect trilogy, where the Captain America-esque hero, Commander Shepard, rushes from one place to the next trying to build even the barest defense against an apocalyptic threat. The game takes care in the moments between to reflect on Shepard's journey, the burdens and traumas that have built up, crafting them into the hero the galaxy needs. They've lost friends, failed planets, and risked all advanced life, all on their own judgment. It's enough to make even Shepard start to crack, with their closest friends doing all they can to help them relax as they're more stressed than any point before then. And considering any version of Shepard could survive the equivalent of having the sky fall on top of them, being alone on a planet infested with tremor worms, or being attacked and almost carted away by slaver pirates, is saying quite a bit. And being a hero is ultimately what gets Shepard killed. And if that desire to leave such burden behind can apply to them, why not to us? The stress that builds up in the day-to-day may not be as world-ending as what these heroes face, but it certainly can feel like it. Our own personal worlds revolve around our perspective alone, causing it to feel like it's all on our shoulders to keep those worlds turning. But I think there's comfort in knowing that's not true. Despite what it may seem, you aren't the most important person in the world. Heck, we may not even be the most important person in our own slice of the world. But despite that, we still matter, like all these games and their stories can prove. I think the reason I love games like these is because of how unimportant you're meant to be, and yet value is placed on you regardless. You may not be the center of the universe, but you occupy a valuable place in it anyway. Everything will keep on going if you take a breath. You can afford to stop and smell the flowers. We'll all still be here. In the end, you aren't the main character, which means it's not all on you. I hope that's some comfort. I hope you enjoyed this video if you got this far, and I hope you consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to stay up to date. A massive shout out to my wonderful patrons and channel members helping fund my random tangents like this. You are all wonderful. And thank you, the viewers, for sitting through this and contributing your watch hours. Those mean a lot too. If you want to see more content like this, stay tuned and maybe check out some of my older video essays. If you want something more focused on a specific game, try one of my tour guide series, where I discuss and break down the worlds of some of my favorite video games. Either way, it's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you all again next time. My name is the Hearth Guy, and I will see you all next time around the hearth.